Hello everybody, welcome back to Monday Night Mythbusters. I'm Dr. Carolyn George and Leslie Harrington, Transformational Coach. So we're coming to you live from Vita Integrative Medicine, where I practice functional medicine, and Leslie here is my awesome health coach that really helps to transform people's lives. Tonight we are going to be discussing leaky gut. So many of you may know what that is. We're going to define it and talk a lot about it. But if you have any questions, if you feel like you have it, or you know that you have it, if you've got any questions about it, please.
Or never heard of it.
Or never heard of it, yeah. Anything. Just go ahead and type in any questions that you've got, and we will do our best to answer them. It's an area of a lot of current research, and so it's an area that's just kind of falling all over with all kinds of really interesting experiments and results. So hello there, Marianne and Kristen.
Hello, girls.
So I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and are not in too much of a food coma to take this in.
Maybe talk about leaky gut.
Yeah, maybe you're a little too leaky to talk about leaky gut, because it can give you brain fog. So it may not be very conducive to talking about it, right?
So the technical term for leaky gut is intestinal permeability.
Yes.
So not that would be any more clear in terms of like what you imagine leaky gut to be. I love the email that we sent out with the little guy.
With a guy kind of pouring stuff out of his gut. So does anybody that's out there give me a thumbs up if that you think you might have leaky gut, or you know you do. Maybe you've already done some testing and you know that you've got it. So let's see some thumbs up for anybody that suspects or knows that they are leaky. So we've got a few. So what is it? Intestinal permeability is just that. So your intestines are permeable. It should be really pretty rock solid. And I'm going to go into in the physiology in just a second, but it should be pretty much a continuous run of cells with one cell hitting the other cell and not a lot of ability, like a cheesecloth, for things to get in and out, right? So you want that barrier function of your gut, because that's really important. You have other cells in the body where you don't have that leakiness. So like in our skin cells, in our liver tissue, and many other tissues in our body, where we freely allow things to go back and forth. But in your GI tract, you really don't want that to happen. And that's for a number of reasons, but one of the most important ones is that there's just so much stuff that comes through our mouth, right? So to kind of dive in, I'm going to get a little technical here, but I think it's really worthwhile understanding what's going on with your gut, because it affects everything. So your intestines are really a tube of the outside world going through you. It's like your body's wrapped around this tube that goes through you. And the things that come into your mouth are things that are in the air, things that are on the food that you swallow, things that you're purposely eating, things that you're not purposely eating. So it can be bacteria that's on your food, it can be the chemicals like pesticides and cleaning agents that are on your food, it can be other things that are in our world that we're breathing in and then we swallow. It's bacteria, it's parasites, it's yeast, it's many different things. You just think about if you lick your finger because something's tasty, how many potential things are on that finger. So it goes into your body. What does your body do with it? It's got to figure out, is that friend or is that foe, right? So it's got to take whatever you're eating and decide, is this nutrition? And if so, I need to break it down and I need to absorb it. Or is it dangerous for me? Are these parasites, bacteria, or dangerous chemicals? And it's got to try to keep that out. That's a pretty darn tough job. So in my mind, in today's world, in my mind, your gut is like one of the most amazing parts of your body, because it's got to do such a balancing act between getting in the good stuff and keeping the bad stuff out.
It's so sophisticated.
It is incredibly sophisticated. We can't even reproduce this.
And that's kind of off topic, but chewing your food, like introducing the saliva to your food, is actually like helping your body get acquainted with the food that's coming in. It actually is a very important part of the digestion process. And the things like Dr. George is saying, the things your body's going to be familiar with, and the things that your body's going to be like, I don't recognize this. It's going to ultimately become part of who you are, what you're eating, right?
super important point. Whatever you're eating is replacing the cells that are dying off. So when you're eating good, healthy, nutritious food, then you've got good, healthy cells. But so to go back into the story a little bit more. So you're bringing all these things into your body, whether they're nutritious or whether they're potentially harmful to your body. Your body's got to figure out what's good, what's bad. And it's got to do that with one cell thickness, okay? It does not have a big barrier like our skin has a very big barrier. This is multiple cells thick. So it's very protective. But in our gut, it's not. And it can't be, because if you had multiple cells, it would take so much energy to get that food broken down and through those multiple cells into your blood that you would use more energy than you would get from the food that you're eating. So it's had to figure out how to work with just the one cell. And so evolution's been amazing, and what it's created is this thing called intestinal barriers or tight junctions. So in your gut, between every cell, this is a cell, and then we've got another cell. So in between each cell, they're held closely together, and it's like little Velcro that holds the cells together, so nothing can go in between them. And so then the next cell is tight to that one, and the next cell is tight to that. That way you have these little villi, which are like little fingers that come out of the cells, and they have little receptors on them. So the stuff that's going through your intestines that your digestive system has started breaking down, starting with chewing, so the chewing process starts to break it down, gets in the amylase from your saliva, gets in the digestive enzymes, the betaine from your stomach acid. All of those come in and break things down into their smallest bits. Your body cannot absorb big long fats or big long chains of proteins or big long chains of starches. It needs them as single sugars, single amino acids, or single fatty acids. It has to be broken down into its smallest bit. And then you've got little receptors. Pulls that fatty acid, pulls that vitamin B12, pulls that mineral zinc, pulls that sugar, glucose. It pulls all these little things out and puts them through the cell. And then the cell does things to it as it goes through to kind of make it recognizable as safe. And then at the bottom of the cell, before it even hits the blood, there's this little thing called a basement membrane. And in that, you've got all your white cells. 70% of your immune system is in your gut. That's the biggest
crazy.
part of your immune system. And it's there for good reason, because there's the greatest potential to get those pathogens in your body. It's got to be able to fight them off. So in a healthy gut, you have these tight junctions, okay? Only things that you've got receptors for that you want to get into the cell, and then go, before they hit the blood, they go through the immune system, and the immune system goes, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe, you're not safe, out you go, right? So your body has a very clear system. These little things called secretory IgA or SIG-A's are some of the immune cells that sit down there. And I kind of say they're like the TSA, right? So in an airport, if you've got low threat, you don't have very many TSA agents around. But as the threat level increases, your TSA agents increase to keep you safe, right? So they're there monitoring, making sure that everything that comes through is recognizable as you or as safe. Mm-hmm. The immune system's only black or white. It's only you're okay or you're not okay. There's no gray for your immune system. And so then it's there to do its job.
And where does the you're not okay go? Like when you got, okay, you're going to go into the bloodstream and absorb and whatever. Where does the nope, you're out?
Right? So then there's little white cells that come in, and anything that the immune system says you're not okay, the white cell comes in and gobbles up.
Yep.
Sometimes it's helped by having a little signal, which is an antibody. So antibodies are kind of like an alert, like like little arm going, hey, I'm not good, come eat me up, right? So like a little flare. So sometimes you have antibodies that stick to things, but the white cells themselves, I don't want to get too confusing, but there's what's called the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And the innate is just there. It's going to pick up any kind of general abnormality. The adaptive one is there to be very specific about certain proteins, certain bacteria, certain things.
That's
and
like
it's
the
much
autoimmunity more flexible.
Right, so that gets more complex. So we've got Rosie and we've got Leda joining us. Thank you, ladies. So we're talking about intestinal permeability and leaky gut. And we've talked about how the gut is very specific, brings food in and everything that's on the food, the microbes, the chemicals, etc., and breaks it down and then pulls in the nutrients that it wants. It's got these little villi, and the things that it doesn't want, there's these tight junctions that keep everything from coming through. That's Velcro, it doesn't let anything go through. And one of the linchpins on these tight junctions is a chemical called zonulin, and that is not from Star Trek. It sounds very science, science fiction-y, but zonulin is something that was identified by Dr. Alessio Fasano. And if you Google any of the research he's done, he's pretty amazing. And so he's got lots of YouTubes and articles, and he's written in Scientific American, and so he's really one of the key guys that's working.
That's the guy we saw.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he was like
handsome,
zonulin man.
Yeah, handsome
that's
Italian
cool.
guy. So he worked initially with salmonella and diarrheal diseases, and was figuring out why people got diarrhea, and identified that zonulin was salmonella links and pulls off the zonulin, so it makes the gut then leaky, so everything can go through, including diarrhea. So that's a long story short, but so zonulin is that linchpin, and if we see zonulin high in your blood or high in your stool, then we know that you've got some leakiness going on there. It's not healthy. So in a unhealthy gut that is leaky, so I'm going to talk about what might cause it, but when it gets leaky, so it's like a big sieve, right? Instead of like small cheesecloth, you've got big holes.
Like a net.
Yeah, big things get through. And so your partially digested food, the bacteria, the parasites, all these chemicals, all this stuff now rains in through between the cells. The cells haven't got the control anymore, and it goes through, and your immune system goes, hey, this is not happening. Yeah, where'd all these guys come from? And they start to go into super hyper mode and try to gobble up everything, and start sending up the flares of those antibodies to recruit more immune cells to come in. Now you've got inflammation, and that inflammation causes more inflammation. They're like innocent bystanders. Mm-hmm. And then from a little local area of inflammation, it spreads out, and then all of a sudden, you got
a mess.
You got a hot mess.
Hot mess. So one of the things we were going to talk about are signs and symptoms. So at that point is when you're going to start to see diarrhea being one. It could be diarrhea, constipation, bloating, mm-hmm. gas,
right?
Pain, stomach pains.
All of those things. You can
like
have
you said, fatigue and brain fog.
You can get a lot of extra intestinal or things that aren't involving your intestines. You get symptoms elsewhere, because once this starts happening, your whole immune system starts to flare. And so you can get concentration issues, fatigue issues, skin rashes, a really, really, really common way of your body saying, hey, there's something going on in the gut. You can get flushing, you can get sore throats, you can get a myriad of symptoms because the whole system becomes
you're compromised.
On alert. Yeah.
So the different causes, and then we talked about like how would you know? And one of the test and measurements that we do here is the zonulin test. Mm-hmm. And then maybe talk about some of the other ways that they're able to tell.
Right. So zonulin's a newer test. Only since Dr. Fasano identified it, now they've got a test. They've got a stool test, and they've got a blood test that you can use to look for increased amounts of zonulin in those areas. Another stool test that's been around for a long time that can be an indirect identifier of that leakiness is called calprotectin. And we see that goes up in inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. We use that to diagnose those. But it can go up with leakiness as well. And then the older fashioned test, which we've used for decades, but we really don't use as much anymore, is called the lactulose mannose test. And that is a test where you take in two sugars. One of the sugars is a small molecule that the body can absorb called mannose, D-mannose, and the other one is a big sugar called lactulose, which it shouldn't be able to absorb because it shouldn't be able to fit between the cells or be within the cell. There's no really good receptor for it. So you drink this sugary drink, and then we collect your urine and we look for the mannose and the lactulose. If your body's absorbed it, you're going to pee it out. So you should have mannose, but not lactulose, and we look at the ratios of that. And so that's a test that we have looked at. That hasn't been as great a test. I mean, it's for the most part for years it's been the only kind of real good test that we've had. Now we've got better ones, but it wasn't the best because it still missed a lot of people that had leakiness, but just maybe not as bad, or they weren't in a super leaky mode at the time of the test. Maybe they were already adjusting their diet, their stress, or other things.
Yeah. And with any type of gut issue, there's always, you see some overlap in symptoms. So it's hard when you have it. That's why I think testing is really important to really get to the bottom of things. Even if you have some consistent ways of resolving the issue, they all have a very clear distinction, you know? So knowing exactly what's going on is going to help you. It's like throwing at a target and you've got a bullseye, or you could just keep throwing it at the target and hitting whatever's around there. You know, it's, to me, it's just much more of a concise way to find out and to fix it and to do really quickly. So some of the ways that you can fix it and heal it. So there's different types of supplements you can take. These are different.
And actually, before we dive in there, let's just talk briefly about what might cause it.
Oh, yes.
So many different things can cause leaky gut, and I don't think that we really fully know all of the potential triggers, but we know for sure certain things can. Being on NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen and that family can cause it. Even Tylenol sometimes can cause it. Certain foods can precipitate it. If you're celiac, then for sure gluten will, but even people without celiac disease, Dr. Fasano and his group have looked at this, and they studied normal healthy people with no gut symptoms. And when they eat wheat or gluten, they get a little short period of that intestinal permeability, that leaky gut. It heals up pretty quickly, but they get it, okay? So people with celiac disease, they get it and they don't heal. They're just genetically, they're in that kind of an immune group that does not heal from that very well, and so it stays leaky for longer. You know, it can be hard to heal sometimes. But even people that don't have that can get little short periods of leakiness. So we just tend to heal fast. So certain foods, gluten being one of the most notorious, but dairy can do it. Very sugary foods can do it. Your very processed foods with a lot of smell to them, with phthalates, you know, when we add a lot of additives to make things smell and taste differently. Those are things that can also contribute to leakiness. Diet. Yeah, the Western diet, high fat, a lot of saturated animal proteins causes leakiness, and they've done a lot of studies with that. And you can get, they looked at high fat diets, and you get a surge of what's called LPS, lipopolysaccharide, which is the outer membrane of the bacteria that are in your gut, actually get right through between those cells and get through into your blood system, and then you start to make antibodies to them. That is another test that can be done looking for LPS antibodies. So many different things in a diet can do it. All the chemicals that we worry about, your pesticides, your herbicides, those all have the potential to do it. We think possibly glyphosate. I don't think that's been firmly proven, but glyphosate is suspicious for doing that. And certainly we know glyphosate kills off your microbiome. Your microbiome is super important for helping to keep that intestinal barrier, that junction, the tight junction, very healthy. Yeah. So anything that disrupts your microbiome, whether it's a stomach flu that makes you have terrible diarrhea, that itself, the virus can cause leaky gut, and pooping out all those good bacteria can then leave you more prone to bigger problems. Antibiotics kill off your microbiome. They're going to make you more prone for that leaky gut. So there are just so very many things. And of course, where would I be if I didn't say stress and lack of sleep?
Anything that's inflammatory automatically, right?
Automatically can do it. So we know for sure stress increases that leakiness. Anything that goes on in its head affects the rest of the body, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the guts, it's a direct communication through that vagus nerve. So it affects leakiness. And interestingly, I thought very interestingly, when you have any kind of brain trauma, if you get a head injury, if you've had a concussion, you get a little leaky brain. And your brain actually has the same, it has a blood-brain barrier. It has those same tight junctions going on in your brain, slightly different, but essentially the same. And you get a knock to your head, they get leaky. It sends a message through your vagus nerve, now your gut's leaky. So within hours of brain injury, you can have leaky gut.
Really?
And
And
vice versa.
that's-
Within hours of gut injury or a viral gastroenteritis, norovirus, that kind of thing, you can get a little bit of leaky brain.
Wow. Hence the brain fog and
Hence the brain
confusion
fog and filling, the
yeah,
viruses
that's
and everything.
amazing. 'Cause, yeah, I have a friend who just had a pretty good concussion. I hope she's not watching.
Yeah, no, it's
No,
really,
sorry.
really important.
Yeah,
right.
for
Because
sure.
we don't think about these things, and our body, again, just like the healthy person who ate the gluten and their gut healed quickly, it normally will heal very quickly, but sometimes it doesn't, especially if you add insult to insult. So you're eating
Yeah.
a very standard American diet, you get a head injury, you're under a lot of stress, you're not sleeping, then your gut's going to be as leaky as all get out.
Yeah, it goes back to your TSA agents and the people, you've got this protective wall and this barrier, and as you're continually taking in pathogens, whether it's in the foods that you're eating, it's in the environment, it's what you're breathing, something's controllable, something's not, you're killing off your soldiers, and now you're leaving vulnerability, and as you're getting more and more vulnerable, you're more prone to being, to have it be more difficult to rectify.
Right. And it's just, you think about all the little blocks that you got to knock over before you really have a big mess, and it just happens, boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
All those dominoes go down.
Yeah, so listen to the symptoms early on. If you are having stomach problems, I always say that there's so many things that are common, but they're not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just, as a society, kind of used to that lunch coma and feeling like, maybe stomach aches after you eat. What's the big deal?
Right.
Doesn't everyone get that?
No.
It's very common, but it's not normal.
Right.
So understanding that that's your body talking to you and telling you a story, and most of the time we're not listening the first few times. So as it persists,
I'll be fine.
listen.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and anything persistent like that too. I mean, at that point, you're probably dealing with something that's going to be much harder to address.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other symptoms that people don't always kind of equate with gut issues is skin issues. So anytime you've got eczema, rashes, itchy skin, think gut. That's really important to kind of start putting those two things together so that you can start listening to what your body is saying and try to decipher what it's trying to tell you. Am I eating a whole bunch of junk food that's, irritating my gut? You stop that, you get better before it worsens.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you can do
And
if you
acne
pay
and
attention.
skin issues on your side of your face.
Yeah.
Sides, right?
Yeah.
Mostly.
Well, any kind of cystic acne, any kind of acne really
Yeah.
can be from foods, from stress, from all of these things.
Yeah.
Right? But skin and gut always go together.
Yeah, definitely. The warning signals, so those are the not as subtle
Right.
whispers and taps. That's like visible stuff
Right.
that you need to pay attention to.
Right. You
Again,
need
not
to pay
normal.
attention.
Not normal.
Right.
Common.
Listen to me. So then we were going to talk about a little bit about what you can do. So first thing, it's good to get a good diagnosis because as we've just spoken about, there's many potential triggers for leaky gut. So knowing that you've got leaky gut, the questioning doesn't end there. It's why? Why do I have leaky gut? Because in functional medicine, we're not just happy with, okay, that's your diagnosis. We want to know why. And then why? So my gut's leaky. Why is it leaky? Is it leaky because I'm stressed? Why am I stressed? Is it leaky because I'm not eating well? What is it that I'm eating that's not good? Sometimes it's even foods that are good. Traditionally we think good for you,
Healthy.
but you may have a food sensitivity to them.
Yeah, foods that are healthy are not always healthy for everyone.
Correct.
So there's plenty of really good healthy foods that certain people just don't eat because it just doesn't agree with them, or they're having, their body doesn't like it.
Yeah. That can be another little signal. If you have 1 or 2 food sensitivities, that's not uncommon, that will happen. If you've got a whole host, if they do food sensitivity testing on you and you're showing up red alerts to like 20 things, then you've got leaky gut until proven otherwise. And so you've got to figure out why.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of taking those foods out, but you've got to go deeper and you've got to start to try to heal it.
Yeah.
You may have had that for a long time, right? And it just hasn't healed, which is one reason why some people with celiac disease, they remove the gluten and they're really strict and are not getting any gluten in, and they still don't get better. It's because they haven't done the healing thing. They still have got some leakiness.
They've taken away the
They've taken
attack,
out the
but
trigger,
not-
but they haven't helped to mend those bridges and get those those barriers back in.
Yeah, and rebuilding the gut lining.
Yeah, and it can be hard to do. So eating a very healthy diet, so clean, which by clean I mean organic as much as you can, grass-fed beef, hormone-free chicken, unfarmed wild-caught fish, lots and lots and lots of vegetables, whatever kind of diet you choose to do, keto, paleo, AIP, vegan, vegetarian. The majority of your foods should still be plants, but clean plants, ideally organic. And if you want to know which foods not to eat organic, Environmental Working Group.org has the list of the Dirty Dozen, which are 12 foods you really should only eat if they're organic, and then the Clean 15, and that's 15 foods that you can just happily buy conventionally.
Yeah, if you can't get them organic, it's not a tragedy.
Yeah, not at all. In fact, I don't even worry about it. Things like avocados, they really don't use many chemicals on avocados, so that's something that's quite fine to get conventional.
And that list actually changes annually, which is
They
interesting.
they retest. The Environmental Working Group is really pretty amazing in terms of how much testing they do,
Yeah.
and they are not sponsored by big food companies, so they're doing this
they're on our
all
side.
with they're doing this with donations from you and me.
Yeah.
So every Christmas I always donate to them because they help me live a much healthier life. So clean food. Try to manage your stress. Again, you're not going to get rid of stress, but always looking for ways to manage the stress, how you perceive it. Try to really ride the wave rather than let the wave knock you over.
Yeah, and there's just a certain amount of control that you just don't have. You have to surrender some of that at some point and realize that you can't control the people around you and the circumstance, and you just control yourself and your thoughts around the
right.
The perception.
And try to reframe things as a positive rather than, oh, this is
Yeah.
the worst thing ever, I can't possibly deal with this. Okay, reframe it. It's a challenge, okay? Am I up to this challenge? Yes or no? If you're not up to it, okay, what's the next step? If you're up to it, let's try to figure this one out, right?
Yeah.
One door closed is another door open. So
You see people that have similar jobs, and you see some people that are like walking through it gracefully, and other people that are walking around flailing their arms and don't know what to do with themselves, and it's really the exact same, as far as their body's interpretation, it's what they do with it.
right,
So,
their body's interpretation is going to be very different
very much
in each situation.
Yes.
Or even think about traffic.
Yes.
Right? You can have somebody that
Yes.
goes crazy because there's all the lights and they're going to be late, and they kind of create this whole scenario of who's going to hate them and be mad at them, and they're going to get docked salary, and their stress level's up to here. They're getting leaky gut.
Yeah.
The other guy is going through the same traffic, having to stop at every
I'll
light.
get there when I get there.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll meditate at each light. It gets
Yeah, it's
me
not going to
the
get in
extra
there
30
faster to be
30
stressed
seconds,
out about it.
Yeah, 30 seconds of meditation more. And so they're going to end up where they're at, much calmer, no leakiness.
Same
right?
time, same amount of red lights. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all in how you interpret the situation, how you can choose to look at it, reframe it, just turn it a little bit. Find what's the positive of this.
And you can practice that through air travel. That's one of the best places to practice, because you really have to just say I can't get anywhere faster than where
Oh,
you know
on
what I
the
mean?
airplane?
Yeah, you've just got to give it up, when you have delays and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when you see a lot of character. And I've been on both sides.
Right?
But
Absolutely.
it's definitely training in patience, but traffic, things like that. So just think about the next time.
Think about that, but just really realize that whole mental craziness that you can go through is translating to changes in your physiology.
It will make you sick.
It will make you sick.
Literally.
Absolutely, literally. So stress management is another key thing. Then really trying to work with your microbiome, taking probiotics, eating fermented foods. These are things that can help to build up your microbiome to make it stronger for you.
What about glutamine?
Glutamine is a good basic nutrient that even in the conventional world, I was looking up some good research articles about this, and even in the research world 5-10 years ago they were using glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid that is kind of like sugar for our gut cells, so it's a food for them. So really trying to have high amounts of glutamine in your diet. You can take it as a supplement, or you can eat foods that are higher in glutamine, but really supplementing it is the better way to kind of get a high dose of that. And that helps to heal your gut. So you can use there's a few other supplements that you can use for gut healing. So
anything with aloe vera
Aloe vera is very
Even
calming.
the gel or the juice. If you figure what it used to do as a kid, you know, when you have a cut on the outside, it's very soothing and healing for the inside.
Yeah. So those kinds of things can be very healing. So several things within the food. Collagen broth. So you can use a bone broth. That's very healing to your gut. That's high in glutamine, high in something else called glycine. So again, very healing to your gut. So foods, some supplements, probiotics in your microbiome, and then just avoiding those triggers. Those are some of the key things to do. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anything else that I wanted to make sure that we talked about. Not being so concerned about dirt around you. So one of the hypotheses of leaky gut is because we've become so concerned about
Bacteria.
super clean, right? And while I don't want you to have bacteria from hospitals, farming, being in the soil, letting kids play in the dirt, that helps to build up that microbiome that makes your gut much more resilient. So just exposing yourself to that. And then hypoperfusion, or decreased blood flow to your gut. So what's the number one thing that decreases blood flow to the gut? It's being in that fight or flight mode, because your body's automatically shifting the blood flow from your gut to your muscles, to your heart, to your brain, so you can
anywhere but digestion.
It stays away from digestion and restoration, so you don't heal well and you don't digest well. And reproduction.
So your hormones take a break too.
Yeah, and your libido goes south. So making sure that you go from that fight or flight, go to that rest and digest mode. Again, through meditation.
In rest and digest,
laughing.
it's so like literal, because that breathing, you can feel your stomach relax.
Mm-hmm.
You physically can feel it when you're shifting that vagus nerve. It's like amazing, and it's soothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's soothing. It's like even when you just have a stomach ache, and even going in physical change of position.
Right.
But yeah, definitely the breathing makes a huge difference.
Huge. But even something like laughing. Okay, laughing is going to bring you from that fight or flight to the rest and digest, right? So just something that's relaxing, listening to calming music, petting animals actually does that. So all of these things indirectly helps to treat leaky gut. Pretty amazing, right? So go and donate some time to your nearest animal shelter, and you're going to be helping to cure your leaky gut. You're going to be exposed to their little microbiome and helping yours, and the calming effect of being around animals. So there's a lot of little things that you can do that can affect this wonderful thing called the gastrointestinal tract.
Does anybody have any questions? Thank you for the participation. I see Emma's on there. Wow. So yes, it is totally overwhelmingly interesting information, because you kind of don't really, the leaky gut is not really a sexy term, right? Right. Lisa joined. Michael joined.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for everybody coming on and taking the time. We love doing this. So it doesn't look like there's any questions, and we're a little bit over. Yeah. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. And as usual, please share this with anybody that you think might be interested. We post this on our YouTube channel in case the person that you're thinking might be interested doesn't have Facebook, so you can get it in either place. But we love to share it. We love the likes. We love any kind of social media feedback, because that helps us to know that we're talking about things that interest you, and that we're helping to get information out that you may not have other ways. So it's all really about informing, and the more informed you are, the better you can take good care of your body, the better you feel, and the better you can take care of other people. But always yourself first. Awesome. Okay? Yes. Thanks, guys. Yep, feeling the love. Thank you, guys. And next week, I think we're going to be talking about vitamin D. Awesome. Okay, so right now, those who are in the northern climates are not getting as much vitamin D, so we'll talk about the importance of that. Sorry, guys. Okay, yeah. Not us. Not us, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, it's all, because this is going to go everywhere, and you need to know, wherever you're living, the importance of that wonderful vitamin, now known as a prohormone. So that's your little teaser. Why is it a prohormone? So have a wonderful week. Have a fabulous week, yes. And we'll see you next Monday. See you next week. Bye, guys.